Hello, I'm Harry Toozle and welcome to part 4 of my Business Achievement and Success Challenge. And in this part, I'm going to give you 2 videos and also a bonus workbook, all around 2 major areas which I believe creates the foundations of success. The first one is building hope, optimism and a better attitude. And the second one is all about building a balanced life. Let's jump straight into the first one. First off, if I talk about building hope, optimism and a better attitude, let's think about what does attitude mean to you? And optimism, hope, or even how do we build a better attitude, optimism and hope? And I've got a simple ABC technique which is very easy to do, and by the way, this is probably one of the habits you can acquire, which I have suggested will also help. So let's look at what is attitude. This is foundational to what I'm going to say, so it's fairly important that we look at this. It is how we perceive the world around us, and that is influenced by 2 things: our reason, how we think, but also our emotions. And emotions, funny enough, has a much stronger impact than we often admit. It is better to admit that and realize how strong an impact it has, because then you can really manage it. Without admitting it, you can't do a thing about it. So emotions is often events that causes some disruption or something and causes an emotion and we get all upset. Now, attitude is a different animal. Attitude is about what we feel, what we believe, and that creates a intention to behave in a certain way. Now, altogether, this is going to create behavior. But what we want to know is how can we enhance that part? How can we manage our feelings, our beliefs, and how we intend to behave better? So, how your environment is perceived will determine how you behave, but you can control that perception, and that is my point here. Now, do you want to control, as I said, and soar with the eagles, or would you rather scratch with the turkeys? What I'm saying is, yeah, it's free, it is a good habit, and it can really make a huge impact to you. Now, building optimism, what does that take? Well, the first thing we got to think of is the thing called explanatory style. Now, I've based this on some very good science and social psychology. You can read up on this area and on positive psychology more, but fundamentally the question here is, how do you explain events to yourself? What is your explanatory style? And there are different areas we look at. There. Do you make things personal? So, do you personalize it? Do you ascribe anything that happens to yourself and say, it's all my fault? How do you do that? Now, if you make it personal, if you're a salesperson, this is the type of thing you would say. I am a total idiot who is incompetent to make successful sales. Or, I had no luck with that person. The first one says it's all my fault. The second one ascribes the event and the results to something outside of myself, which is always a good idea. Don't always shift the blame, but this is about not always blaming yourself for everything. The next one is permanent. How do you see things in this area? So the questions there is, do you think a bad event is permanent or temporary? Basically, do you make a mountain out of a molehill? Do you say it will never end, or do you say this will pass? Or do you do that? Do you say it's forever or a passing phase? Now you can imagine what I would suggest you do. And if you're a salesperson, again, I'm taking a salesperson, by the way, because in sales, that is one of the areas where people get knocked back all the time. It takes quite a little bit of resilience and a good attitude to persist. So in sales, I will always get a negative response whenever I do a sales call or when I make a proposal. I will always get a negative response. What is the other alternative? That person must have had a bad day, may not have liked me, my presentation, or did not need my product, right? Or it's the wrong time of day. So it is not permanent. It is that specific time of day or that specific event that happened. It's not permanent. The other thing is pervasive or universal. Everything is bad. So again, in sales, we'll take the example of whether you make it universal or specific. It is this specific issue, this specific time event, or all-encompassing, or limited in extent. Is it everything or is it limited? Ask yourself that question. So with pervasive or universal, this is the type of thing a salesperson could be doing. No one likes my product. No one. It's pervasive. It's everything. No one likes my product. Or that person didn't like my product, didn't need my product. It was not the right time for that person, right? But a good number of them will be interested. So you can see what I'm talking about. And explanatory style, when you talk about feelings and beliefs and attitude and how you intend to behave, is going to have a huge impact. I have a simple technique here, very shortly. Let's just wrap up here. Explanatory style. How do you explain events to yourself? Do you make them all personal? Do you see them as permanent, or do you see them as pervasive or universal? Basically, it's all my fault. It will never end. It's always going to be like that, and everything. Or do you change it around from saying, okay, that is what caused it. Don't blame yourself all the time. It is not permanent. It is this specific time, this specific event, and it's not everything. It is that particular person that didn't like it, or that particular thing that was not good. It is not everything has gone bad. The youth of the day, everything will never get right, permanent. Let's think of it differently. Now, how do we develop optimism? I have a simple technique there. So A, B, C, D, E. And that technique is all about tuning in to your internal dialogue. So listen to how you speak to yourself. What do you think and say to yourself? That is crucial here. Now, A, adversity. There's a big gorilla looking at me. He's gonna kill me and eat me up, or whatever. There is a very bad thing happening here. Adversity. Something is going terribly wrong. The next question is, what is your belief about this? What do you believe? What is your belief about what's happened? So something bad happens and you say, well, this will always be the case. So your explanatory style is going to start kicking in here. Whether it's pervasive, permanent, or personal. Is it forever? Is it me? Is it everything? That type of thinking is going to kick in here with how you believe. And that's why you've got to tune in to your internal dialogue and what you say to yourself. Because your belief is going to influence how you feel about things and then how you will intend to behave. Are you going to crawl away under a rock and never come out? Or are you going to stand up, back straight, head to the wind and move forward? That is the difference. So the next thing is the consequences you look at. So what you do is you say there's an adversity. I have a certain belief about this. Now you can change that belief with explanatory style. But if the belief is very negative, it will never end, it's always bad, I'm stupid, I can't make sales, I'm not good enough, whatever the belief may be, what's the consequences of that belief? Will that belief cause you to go and crawl under a rock and never come out? Or will that belief cause you to soar with the eagles, to get up, get your back straight and walk forward? Because the consequences alone, just thinking about the consequences of the belief you hold, and you say, what is going to be happening here, is almost enough to make you start changing the beliefs about the adversity. We can't change the adversity or bad events. We can get emotional about them, but that doesn't help. What we've got to look at is what do we believe about them. And if we tune into our dialogue about this belief, then the consequences becomes clear. And then we can change the beliefs to change the consequences. Because, look at this. It is not the adversity that causes the consequences. It's our belief and reaction and our attitude, our behavior that's going to cause consequences. So that's why attitude and changing it is so crucial here. So, a way to do this also is this. You dispute it. So this is a way to change also your explanatory style, whether you make it personal, permanent, or pervasive. You say, what's the evidence for the belief I hold? So is it all my fault? Is there any evidence for that? It will be like that forever. Can you produce any evidence? Can you prove that? That's what you're going to do to yourself, to your own internal dialogue, to change it. And this is a constant habit that you should acquire. And over time, this will become second nature to you. Number two, what is the alternative? So if your belief is, it's me, it's a bit like I showed you with a salesperson. I believe it's going to be forever. What is the alternative belief? No, this specific event, the specific time, that specific person. Make it specific. Do not make it all-encompassing, pervasive, all about me, all my fault. Do not do that to yourself. And the third one you can then do when you dispute is, what is the implications of this belief? It's almost like consequences. If I believe this, what is the implications? What will happen? Will it be a good or a bad? And say no to bad implications and change the beliefs. And then the fourth one is, how useful is this belief? Never mind whether the belief is true or not even. Now you say, how useful is it? So if you look at those four aspects, you can use that to dispute whatever you are thinking about and how you process your belief about adversity. So you have an adversity, you develop a belief, there's certain consequences to that belief that you should face up to and say what will happen. And the way to dispute the belief is to use these simple techniques. Now, when you do those four things, this will happen. That's number 5. That's E, energize. This is not a step that you actually have to do. The first 4 steps will result in this. Energy, and every time I do it to myself, I feel greater energy. It is not a panacea and a quick fix for everything, but it will improve overall if you apply this as a habit. So, in conclusion, make sure you dispute the belief. So, attitudes come from how we believe and feel. Now, how would you feel if everything is going bad forever and it will never come right? Not good. So you need to dispute that belief so you can feel better and then intend to behave differently. So ABC, what's the adversity you're facing, what's your belief and what's the consequences? You then dispute the belief by looking at making it external, temporary and specific. Not me, something else. Not forever, temporary. Not everything, something specific. And then you dispute it by looking at the evidence, the alternatives, the implications, and how useful it is. And can you see how understanding attitude, using the idea of explanatory style, and then using this simple ABCDE technique can help you change your attitude, your hopefulness about the future, your optimism about what is going to unfold, so that you can be energized. I trust that this has inspired and challenged you. I hope that you will find the next one, which is all about maintaining a balance. It's a much more reflective one, much more thinking. Here I've taught you some techniques. In the next one, I'm going to take you through a short reflective process. With that, thank you for listening. I do hope it goes very well with you and you create a great and useful and optimistic future for yourself.